Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm super excited to have you guys here today, and today we're going to be working on these two gorgeous nightstands. But before that, please like my video, subscribe and share with your family and friends, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any more upcoming videos. I was inspired by the modern style nightstand with the tall legs and double drawers. I couldn't find one that fits exactly the height and size I wanted because my bed is a bit tall, so I decided to make one. And I really love the concrete effect on furniture, especially because it matched so well with the color of my bed. So those were the items I decided to find. So I got a 2-drawer unit from Amazon for $36, and because I didn't like the finish, I wanted the concrete finish. So I got concrete marble contact paper for about $12.99, and unit legs were from Walmart for $20.63, a set of 4. The drawer pulls were from Amazon as well, $7.49 for a pack of 5. And lastly, some spray paint for $5.19 from Amazon to spray the drawer pulls, the legs and the screw covers. So the first thing I did was to go ahead and unbox the main unit, and first impressions, the parts were quite sturdy. It's made from particle board, but it was quite firm. It would do the job just fine, and the finish was good, but I was still made up with the concrete finish, so I was still going to cover it with the contact paper. And in the box we had the drawer front, 2 drawer fronts, 4 drawer sides, 2 drawer bottoms, 2 main unit sides, 1 main unit top, 1 main unit bottom, 1 main unit backing, hardware, knobs, wood glue, and the instruction manual. Next thing I did was to spray the parts I wanted to be gold, which were the drawer pulls, the screw caps and the legs for the unit. I did spray the legs off camera, and all I did was spray the legs with 2 coats and let them dry for about 6 hours, and then I covered them with Mod Podge to seal in the paint. After that, I turned the screw caps over on the tape they were attached to and gave them a little coat of paint to make sure they were perfectly gold. So the next step was cutting out the contact paper, and the purchase link is included in the description box below. And what I did was to unwrap it and flip it over, and then use the pieces of the units which I wanted to cover with the contact paper to measure the exact amount I needed, with about 1/8 of an inch extra, so it would be easy to apply, and then I cut them out. So I did that for all the pieces that I needed to cover, which were the drawer front, the main unit sides, and the main unit top. Next step was to apply the contact paper to the pieces I wanted to cover, and the contact paper was actually pretty forgiving. I could easily take it off and reapply it as needed. So what I did was to take off the full length of the backing paper for all the smaller units like the drawer front, and apply it all at once, making sure to smooth out all the bubbles, which was quite easy to do. And then I flipped it over and cut off the excess pieces flush with a craft knife. I did that for both drawer fronts, and then for the larger pieces, what I did was slowly peel back the contact paper as I smoothed it down to get out all the bubbles, which worked more effectively than taking off all the backing on the contact paper and trying over and over and over to apply it. So this worked quite well, and anytime I had any errors, I would just peel off that section and reapply, and it worked quite well. So I did that for the top and the unit sides, and then I flipped them over and cut off the excess as well. For the last piece on the side of the unit, what happened was I had tiny pieces left over and I didn't want to use more than one roll of paper. So what I did was to arrange the pieces on the side of the board and attach them one after the other, making sure to smoothly cover the line as much as possible and then smooth them all together. And then the tiny spots left over at the bottom and side, I just fill them up with whatever was left. And it wasn't actually too obvious. It worked quite well. And I knew I was going to be able to hide it at the corner of the bed in the room. So parts to cover are your two drawer fronts, the main unit top, and the main unit sides. Next thing I did was to seal the drawer slides. Now the unit basically came with holes in the wood for the drawer slides, and I noticed they weren't so smooth and particles kept falling out of it, and when I pulled it on the metal slider it wasn't so smooth. So what I did was to fill it up with Mod Podge, making sure to cover every angle for all 4 drawer sides. This would help make the drawers pull out more smoothly. Next step is assembling the drawers, and for the parts we have 4 drawer sides, 2 drawer backs, and 2 drawer fronts covered with contact paper. Then we have the 2 unit sides, both covered with contact paper as well. The unit top covered with contact paper, and the unit bottom not covered. Then we have the light drawer bottoms and the light unit back. So for assembling the drawers, we're going to need the 4 sides, the 2 backs, the 2 fronts, and the 2 bottoms. For the hardware, we have the large screws, the tightening pins and tightening drums, the smaller screws for the drawer units, and the wood glue. So moving on to attaching them, first thing we do is attach the tightening pins onto the smaller holes on the front of the drawer unit. You need a Phillips screwdriver or an electric driver if you have one. I went ahead to do both drawer fronts at the same time, tightening the tightening pins in. Next, I set up the 2 drawer sides and the drawer back. Make sure the sliding lines, that's the smaller lines, are all facing on the inside. And then I attach the screws, smaller screws for the drawers, on both sides to hold the 3 parts together. I went ahead and did the same thing also for the second drawer.
Next, I put in the wood glue, 2 dots on the sides, 3 on the back, and 2 on the other side. Then I went ahead to slide in the drawer bottom with the finished side facing inward. Next, I added 3 dots of glue on the drawer front and a dot on each wooden dowel. Next, I placed in the tightening drums with the open parts facing outward so the tightening pins could slide in, and then I put on the drawer front and screwed it in a clockwise direction to tighten the pins. To attach the drawer pulls, the screws that came with the drawer pulls were too long for the width of the wood, so I had to use the shorter screws that came with the drawer pulls on the original unit. So what I did was to create 2 tiny pieces to increase the barrier between the screw and the drawer pull. Just tiny pieces of cardboard wrapped in contact paper, and then I put the screws in them and then attach them from the inside onto the drawer pulls. And I did that for both drawers. To assemble the main unit, first thing I did was to make holes through the contact paper where the screws would go, and then I went ahead to attach one of the sides to the bottom using the large screws. Next, I went ahead to attach the top to that same side using the large screws as well. So I ended up with a side and the top and bottom attached. Next, I went ahead to add glue dots to all the sides, 3 on the side and 4 on the top and bottom, and then I slid the backing through. Next, I went ahead to add glue dots to the last side remaining. Attach the last side using the 4 large screws. My hand did get a bit tired, so I had to switch to using my electric screwdriver. To finish up the unit and give it a more cohesive look, I went ahead to cut out strips from the contact paper that were just about 1/8 of an inch higher than the measurement of a full inch. So what I did was to peel off the strips and attach them flush with the inner edge and with the excess hanging over the outer edge. So I did that for all 4 sides. And then to trim off the excess, what I did was flip the whole unit over and then use a craft knife to cut it flush to the sides of the unit. This gave it a perfect finish. To finish up the top, I used a strip of the contact paper and attached it from the inner corner, holding it down with the scraper I smoothed it over with my fingers to give it a perfect finish. I did have to work over the edge several times with the scraper to make sure it came out crisp and sharp, and to be sure that it was not going to come up later. To finish it up, I flipped it over and cut off the excess. It looked so much more polished and nice with the finish. To attach the legs, I placed them on the bottom of the unit using a ruler to measure out about 2 inches off the edge in the front and the back. And then I used a pencil to trace out the angles so I could know exactly where to place the legs back on. Then I used my cordless drill to make drill holes, just tiny little holes to know exactly where to drill through. I made 3 holes on each angle, and then I went ahead to drill them through. I did have to get my husband to help me with that because it's taking me way too long. Next, I attach the screws on all the legs, and then I follow through with the drill to tighten them. And that's it. And the last step was adding the finishing touches, which were just the screw caps to cover the screws on either side of the unit, 4 on each side. I did have to use a hammer to knock them in to make sure they stayed in place, but after that they didn't fall out anymore. The total unit came to about $72, and I've placed the shopping links in the description box below so you can get everything to make your own unit. It turned out really great, and I loved the color, the finishing. It was perfect. The size, everything about it was perfect. It fit perfectly in the space beside the bed. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch my video. I'm so glad I could get to share this with you. Please like the video and share your comments with me as well on things you'd like to see on my page. I have a lot more ideas for crafts and DIYs coming up, so don't forget to subscribe and click on that notification bell so you don't miss any new videos. Thanks guys.